Alright guys, got a problem with my lawnmower. This is a Cub Cadet HDS3185, I think. It's got this Kohler Command Series engine, V-twin. It's leaking oil. A lot of oil. Probably see it on the floor down there. And I cannot figure out where it's coming from. Here's what I know. It will not leak until it's smoking hot. You got to take it out and actually put it under a load. It takes about 20 minutes. And then once it starts pouring out, it stays, it stays consistent until you let it cool off. I've poked around with mirrors and borescopes. I cannot figure it out. I'm pretty sure it's not the breather cover. That's a common problem on these Kohlers. I took the air filter box and stuff off. You can see that from the top. I think it's either got to be a front main seal inside this cover, or the actual, it may be this oil pan gasket or silicone or whatever it is, or the actual block is cracked. It looks like it's bubbling up right around this mount bolt right here. Anyway, it's not really usable the way it is. It'll burn, or it'll leak out over a quart of oil in the time it takes to cut the grass here. So yeah, we can't leave it like that. Anyway, I don't think we can fix anything with the engine in the tractor, so we might as well go ahead and pull it out. We've got some engineering going on here in the background. Right, buddy?
What?
A heart?
Yeah.
Out of railroad track?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can't
Man, I don't want those things coming off there, do they? Oh, man. Oh, come on.
Dad,
Yeah.
do you like my Park Club dumping trucks?
Yeah, it looks good. It's like working on an old Ford. The engine is metric. The chassis is inches, made by MTD. Don't put it in your mouth.
I just got it in my mouth.
How did it get in your mouth?
I don't even know.
You don't even know how it got there?
There's a hot flash in my mouth.
Go wash your hands. I think we're loose.
My skin is falling apart.
Your skin's falling apart.
Skin falling apart.
Well, that could be an issue, couldn't it, kiddo? There we go.
Oh, I didn't finish on my set.
I don't know. It's definitely wet around the seal. and it's obviously been leaking, but it's not quite the smoking gun I was expecting to see. I thought we'd just see a trail of oil running out of this thing. Maybe there's just so much grass and buildup inside of here that it kind of soaks it up. Anyway, that's definitely a problem. We need to replace the front main seal. Is it the front main seal or the rear main seal? To me, this is the front of the engine, but I guess I don't know what the technical term for it is. Anyway, we've had some snack stealing friends in here chewing on the coil wires, so we're gonna have to fix that too. Come on, little guy. Alright folks, everything's clean, and I got us a new seal. There's the part number from National. Not an easy thing to get at 6 p.m. on a Sunday. I ended up making an hour-and-a-half round trip to the big city. Actually had 2 of them in stock. Hopefully we'll only need 1. So we're going to pack the inside of it with grease so we don't lose the spring. And we'll use some Loctite 515 on the outside. Technically we shouldn't need anything since it's got that rubber, kind of a rubber coating, but better safe than sorry. As I recall, it was recessed down in there pretty far. Alright, that's probably a little further than we needed to go, but it should work. Click. It looks like the coil air gap needs to be around 10 thousandths. I think the spec is like 8 to 12. Well, it doesn't look to me like they got through the insulation to the conductors. It's just kind of superficial damage. So we're just going to put a little liquid electrical tape over it and spill it everywhere, and then it should be fine. Well, that's it. Guess we put it back in and cross our fingers, hope for the best. I think that's enough for today. We'll test it out tomorrow morning. All right, folks, we're gonna turn it over to my test pilot. What are you doing?
I don't know. What?
Choke. Start. Good luck. Well, if you're looking for an efficient way to make a mess out of your floor, oil-soaked grass will definitely do it. I got her all blown off. I think we're good. I don't see any major oil leaks. There's still oil, of course. I think it's just blowing around what was already there. The whole bottom side of the frame's coated. I'm gonna have to pressure wash it and really clean it up. I don't know, it died twice while she was mowing, and I replaced the fuel filter. And then it ran for probably 45 minutes after that, so I think we're okay there. Sounds like we're gonna get wet. I better get it put inside. I don't know. I don't recommend one of these Cub Cadet MTD built riding lawnmowers. This thing's just kind of a piece of junk. The engine's only got 700 hours on it. I've already replaced the fuel pump and now the front main seal. It's just not in the same league as a John Deere or, you know, a better quality mower. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you back here for something else. What a freaking pile of junk. It's leaking just as much as it was, or possibly more, from the exact same spot. Exactly the same scenario. It doesn't do it until it's screaming hot. And you hear it's running like crap. The whole low speed circuit's plugged up again. I've already cleaned the carburetor 4 times. The pickup tube inside the fuel tank popped out and it got a bunch of grass down in the gas tank. I cleaned it out and put everything back together, but it sucked a bunch of junk up through the filter and into the carburetor. So this will be the 5th time I've cleaned the carburetor, but something's way wrong. There's oil sprayed all over inside here. I don't know if it blew that new front main seal out or what the deal is. Alright, I gotta walk away. I'm too frustrated. What a piece of junk. Alright folks, it's the following day. I've had a chance to kind of cool off. She's definitely been leaking substantially. Worse than before I tried to fix it. And the good news, if there is good news, is that the seal we installed is not the problem. It's definitely not leaking from the front main, rear main, whatever you want to call it. I really don't know. I'd say, well, I just don't know. There's a seam right here between the 2 halves of the crankcase, but I just really don't see it leaking from there. But that's the most likely, that would be the most likely place for it to leak, I guess. Otherwise, it's got to have a crack in the block somewhere. Problem is, it only leaks when it's smoking hot. So if I set it here on the bench, you know, it'll sit there until the second coming and it'll never leak. Makes it really hard to to troubleshoot. I don't know. I guess we'll clean up the bottom side here. Maybe we can pressurize the crankcase. Man, we'll probably just blow the seals out if we do that. I don't know. We can try the smoke machine, I guess. I don't think we're gonna see anything though. Alright guys, here's the test setup. I think we might have found the problem. It is in the split here between the 2 halves of the case. See a little drop here just starting to form. So I think it's actually leaking up here somewhere just above the normal oil level, which is why you only see it leak when it's running. And it must be a pretty tiny leak based on the amount that we're seeing there. So I guess that would explain why it only leaks when it's super, super hot. Of course, the thinner the oil, the more it's going to spray around inside the engine. Anyway, we need to pull this crankcase apart. We'll go ahead and replace this other main seal and reseal the two halves of the case, and we should be all set. I also need to replace this PCV hose. I tried to put some silicone on it and it didn't work. And then I'm going to order an actual kit for the carburetor, because there's some O-rings inside the fuel shutoff solenoid that are bad, and I did some things that weren't the best to get that to work. Anyway, at least we found something. Alright, I cracked the engine open like a big aluminum pistachio, and I think we found the problem. There's no gasket between the two halves of the case. It's just sealed with some RTV silicone sealant, kind of like a Japanese motorcycle engine, which should work fine, but I'll show you. There's a spot here. See how it's kind of discolored and hazy? And then another spot right here where it's kind of discolored and hazy. That's where it's worn or blown all the silicone out, and the two halves of the aluminum just been rubbing against each other. And you'll see it on the engine block as well. So right there, see where it's kind of shinier, and then up here you can see it's been leaking in that spot too. Anyway, also the oil pickup tube is broken. Well, this little guy here fits in the bottom of the oil pump, and somewhere around here there's a little piece of plastic that's like a hook that hooks over this thing, and it was broken off laying in the bottom. So we're gonna replace that. Well, I finally got some parts. There's a main seal, I think that one's right. There's the O-ring that goes right there, looks right. Here's our new breather tube, looks close enough. And there is a carburetor kit, $80 for that carburetor kit. Can you believe that? You can buy a rip-off Chinese carburetor for half what the rebuild kit costs. And the oil pickup tube, and that's where we run into problems. Definitely not the right part. So we're going to take that back, and we're going to order the right one. Unfortunately, the oil pickup tube is literally the first part that needs to be installed. So we're still waiting. All right, folks, finally got the correct oil pickup tube, so we can start putting it back together. But the jerk-offs at Kohler decided to sell this thing without the O-ring. Guess they're taking a play from the John Deere parts department. So we got to use the O-ring from the old pickup tube, but it's still pretty pliable. I think it'll be just fine. It just it boggles the mind. Why? Tell me a scenario where you would replace the oil pickup tube and not want to replace the O-ring. I don't get it. Alright, I've got the main seal already installed. We're going to go ahead and glue it up. It's like decorating a cake. I did not remove the camshaft or upset the timing in any way. There shouldn't be any kind of timing alignment for the governor or the oil pump. I think we're hanging up on the main seal here, so I just cut a little thin piece of plastic, hoping that'll help it kind of ride up over that lip. Alright, we'll let that cook for about 30 minutes. We'll come back and do our final torque. I went ahead and assembled the flywheel side, just like last time. Now we can torque these cover bolts to 24 Newton meters, 216 inch-pounds. And apparently there's only one bolt that's plated, and it's supposed to go right here underneath of the oil filter base. Don't ask me why. Gotta be kind of careful installing this main seal. There's no shoulder that it presses up against. The bore actually goes way down inside this cover. And what happened to me is it kept wanting to get all cattywampus, and then it would just basically turn sideways inside the bore. So I finally got it where I'm happy with it. I think the book says you're supposed to put it, the face here, 8 millimeters away from the end. We're probably not quite that far, but it's about where it was originally. Anyway, go ahead and assemble this pulley. This is kind of a crazy design, I think. The pulley itself is in 3 pieces. And we use some Loctite. Now when your engine has that surging, especially at high idle with no load, you get a surge and then it won't hardly idle. It's almost always a problem with the low speed circuit. It seems counterintuitive, but even at high speed, the low speed circuit contribution is pretty important. Alright folks, we are going to rebuild this carburetor. I normally don't film this. I don't think it's that interesting. Probably because I've been inside of a zillion carburetors and I have a certain amount of PTSD associated with them. Anyway, the last time I skipped it, a number of you commented that you like to see the carburetors taken apart and toyed with, so here you go. If you don't want to see it, I will put a timestamp to where you can skip all the carburetor nonsense and we'll just pretend it never happened. Well, step 1, you're going to want to send your wife out for the afternoon. I just waited till my wife left for her bi-weekly pedicure, and I snuck into the kitchen and grabbed a cake pan. You need some kind of a tray to keep all the little bits and bobs inside. Step 2, get out your compressed air and blow this thing off. If you don't have a fancy ultrasonic cleaner like Musty One, which I don't, any dirt on the outside is potentially dirt that could make its way onto the inside. So blast that guy off. Now be careful tipping it over like what I just did, because step 3, we're going to take the top off the carburetor bowl and we're going to dump out the gas that's left inside. This carb's pretty clean on the outside because I've already done this so many times. I just dropped it in the solvent tank and hosed off the outside. The bowl should be full of gas. We'll dump that out into a suitable receptacle, and we will dispose of that in an environmentally responsible manner. This carburetor has a shutdown solenoid, this guy right here. Its purpose is to prevent the engine from dieseling, meaning that the engine keeps running after you turn the ignition off because the heat of the exhaust is enough to ignite the fuel vapors that are still being sucked into the engine. And these Kohler commands are really bad about that. It will still diesel even though it has a shutdown solenoid. Next up, we're going to remove the low speed jet. So we're going to first count the number of turns until it's tight. So half, 1, half, 2, half. So it's about 2.5 turns open. That'll give us a reference when we go to put it back together. We'll have to fine tune it on the engine, but it'll get us close. Most of these newer carburetors do not have adjustable high-speed jets. It's normally just the low speed. If you have something really new or really cheap, it won't have any adjustable jets. The whole thing will be permanently jetted. Now we'll remove the float and the float valve. That is the seat for the float valve. And then this guy right here is your emulsion tube. And it has an O-ring on the top and the bottom. And I didn't have the right O-ring for this, so I ended up kind of MacGyvering something together. That's why I bought the kit, because I wanted to replace those O-rings. So underneath that shutdown solenoid is this guy right here. It also has a couple of O-rings on it. Hopefully the kit that we bought contains those O-rings as well. And then under that guy is another jet. Pop that guy out. Like so. I believe that's the high-speed jet. And we'll pull the bowl gasket out. If you don't have a replacement bowl gasket, don't mess with it. Because as soon as you pull it out, you're going to stretch it, and it will never go back together the way it should. It's basically true for any O-ring. Now you see we just tore it, so we're committed now. Alright, now the fun part. We just start blasting our way through various passages. Things like bowl vents are really important. And then anything you clean with carb cleaner, you can also clean with air. There are tiny little passages here around the throttle plate that need to be cleaned. I believe on this carburetor, this small passage right here is your low speed. This is the bottom side of the carburetor, so at low speed you're going to have high manifold vacuum with the throttle plate closed, and it's going to suck fuel right out of this passage here. You open the throttle, and then there's 3 more passages up here that are now exposed. When you close the choke, that's this flap up here. Remember, that's going to be on the opposite side of that plate. So when you close the choke, now you have high manifold vacuum in this entire section. So now it's pulling fuel out of both the high speed and the low speed. Gives you a little extra fuel to help get the engine started. There's different theories about that. There's enrichment circuits and whatnot, but that's how this carburetor is set up. So we're going to make sure all those passages are clear. And they should correspond to passages, these vertical passages here. This is the main one here that dumps out for the high speed. This brass spigot right here. So when you're really opened up, you're going to see fuel come right out of this tube. That's it. Not too exciting. My advice would be to clean it until it's as clean as it can possibly get, and then clean it some more. Well, the big thing we needed from the kit was these 4 O-rings. Got those installed. We're going to go ahead and stick this little tube back in place. The smaller end goes down. I don't think you can get the carburetor together backwards. The 2 halves won't actually fit together. Well, normally I'm a big Sil Glide guy, but you don't really want to put grease in a carburetor. So we'll just put a little WD-40 on those O-rings. And that'll do it. And the kit also comes with a new low-speed jet. So half, one, half, one. We'll leave it there for now. Got a new float valve with a new retainer. Stick that on there. Everybody gets mad if I don't test these float valves. Beautiful. All right. Should be able to drop this guy onto that guy and be done with this. That's it. Not much to it. There are 3 O-rings from the kit left over. Don't know what they do. We'll toss those in the back of a drawer where they'll never be seen again. We'll get rid of all these hard, crusty O-rings. Maybe keep some of these miscellaneous parts. And then we'll sneak this cake pan back into the kitchen before the paint on my wife's toes can dry. It's going to be a long crank time because the fuel system is empty. And I just noticed that the battery is from 2008. So, 13 years on a small engine battery. I don't know how it still works. I'll have to investigate that. Well, that'll do it. What do you think? Is it fixed?
Looks like it. It didn't hit anything. That's pretty good.
Try again.
Well, that happened a long time ago. Not while I was backing up.
Alright, folks.
Not fixed. Now you got two things to fix.
Alright,
And
folks.
stop acting like I'm the first one to hit a gutter. The other gutters you ran over. Thanks for watching.
Alright, folks. I think it's fixed. We successfully mowed, what, twice now? Without any oil leaks?
Yeah.
At least without any major oil leaks.
Without
So
it stopping midway.
we're gonna call it good enough.
Look who joined the outro.
Alright, thanks for watching.
Bye.
What?